morning, everybody. I've been sitting with Matthew 26 for months, ever since I got allocated this particular chapter. And up until Tuesday this week, I still had no idea where I was going to go with it. But then I caught up with Matt in the morning, and in the afternoon, I kind of reckon the Holy Spirit jumped in the driver's seat and still took me down through lots of different routes and different paths. But we'll see where it goes. We'll see where it goes. So if you don't know me, my name is Ansi, and my journey really with Jesus and reading the Bible started in earnest in 2023 when Kim and I walked into the doors of the old Counterslip, on Wells Road, and it just felt like coming home. And I had a Bible, but I never really read it, and I was brought up in a Chinese, Taoist, Buddhist family household in a Muslim country. And I went to a convent, so it's so I'm pretty messed up really when it comes to all of that. And I really didn't have an idea about the Bible and really that it is God speaking to us, that it was His word, and it was the doorway to understanding Him better and to developing a personal relationship with Him. So anyway, Matthew 26 is a hefty chapter, and it's 75 verses and over 1,600 words. So I'm thinking when Matt gave this to me, I was like, give the vegetarian baby Christian the meatiest chapter of the entire book. So there's conniving, there's plotting, there's betrayal, there's arrest, there's heartache, there's denial, there's human weakness. And as I got stuck into this chapter, I went on a journey myself. I cried, and I was I was full of hope, and then I kind of started to reflect a lot on myself. And I went down lots of rabbit holes, including the number 26. So Yahweh and God both add up to 26. If you look at the numbers, and I didn't know this, but anyway, that was a rabbit hole I went down, but I'm not going down that today, all right? Blame Matt. Off the back of Matt's preach last Sunday, the one thread that stuck out to me was heart. It was about heart. It was about the heart of Jesus, and where is our heart? Where's our heart in relation to that? So I ended up with a slide here. If you don't know of the heart, this is a human heart. If you don't know, my background is sports science. So the physiology of exercise, I focused a lot on heart disease, obesity, disordered eating, and all sorts. And when I first met Kim in 2010, on his birthday, he was also diagnosed with heart disease on that day, and he needed open heart surgery, right? So anyway, so the human heart is fascinating for me. It's a muscle. It pumps. It keeps us alive, basically, right? It's pumping blood and lots of other stuff around the body. So that is my idea of heart. Okay, I'm not very touchy-feely. I'm more on the scientific side of things, and that is what heart meant to me. However, my life before coming to Christ, before coming to my faith now, I spent probably 15, 20 years in the self-growth and personal development world. And in that world, there's the phrase, follow your heart. My dad always said to me, as long as you're happy, it's fine. Yeah, but I also have friends and family who basically said, follow your heart. They tell that to their children. Do what makes you happy and follow your heart. You'll see it on T-shirts, on mugs. I have a book, I've actually got it in my bag, I bought 10 years ago called Follow Your Heart. I think there's even a TV series called Follow Your Heart. It sounds great, doesn't it? There's this compass of following your heart. But then, what if your heart's not really telling the truth? right? What if it's not? Because the Bible tells us a lot more. What if your heart's pointing the wrong way? Side note, I followed my heart and moved to Bristol. I'm not saying it's the wrong decision, right? We ended up getting married. But, I did follow my heart in that sense and moved to Bristol. So on this slide, the next slide, there is a shape of a heart. And I got this from the Bible Project. The Bible Project. So the Israelites had no concept of the brain or any particular word for it. And intellectual activity also happened in the heart. So it is the seat of intellect, it is the seat of thought, it is the center of our will, it is the center of our choices, it's the source of emotions. So it's literally everything. All of us is in the heart, right? So it's not just about feelings, it is the control center of your life. And I don't know if you've ever seen the cartoon. Oh, we got people in someone's head. What's it called? Inside Out, right? So anyway, I put it into ChatGPT, and I said then, does this mean that the heart for a Christian is actually that equivalent? And it said yes. So instead of having little people running around in your head, you've got little people running around in your heart. Anyway, so the Hebrew word lev refers to the center of the whole person, our thinking, understandings, emotions, etc. And the Bible teaches us that the heart is powerful, but it is also vulnerable. In Proverbs, we have this verse, watch over your heart with all diligence, for from it flow the springs of life, right? Everything comes from our heart. Then in Matthew, it tells us that out of the heart comes evil thoughts, murders, acts of adultery, immoral sexual acts, thefts, false testimonies, and slanderous statements. So it's not about what has our heart. Okay, what captures our heart will shape our life. Jesus said in Matthew 6:21, "For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also." Our hearts follow our treasure rather than the other way around. Yeah, the heart doesn't lead, it follows. And so in last week in Matthew 25, Jesus tells us 3 stories. It's about people who are ready, faithful, and loving because they truly know him. They know him as the bridegroom, the master, and the king. As a church, we're all about being with Jesus and learning from him and becoming like him. But how do we actually trust someone we don't really know? We don't really know his heart. How do we become someone whose heart we haven't seen? And that is the gift of Matthew 26, is that we get to know him. Okay, we get to see the heart of Jesus up close and personal, under pressure in the lead up to the cross. Okay, we get to see what he treasures, what he loves, what he chooses. We get to know his heart. And then in Matthew, he's actually put different hearts next to it so that we can then have an idea of how, different hearts compare to the heart of Jesus. His heart shows up what ours could become. Okay? So, the one question as I get stuck in, so it seems like a long kind of start, is the question to hold in your mind, in your heart, is where is your heart? Where is your heart through this entire chapter? What does it actually treasure? Because whatever that is, your heart will follow. So let's start reading. I'm kind of take a pick and mix through 26 because I'm not going to read the whole 70 odd verses. So let's look at the very beginning, just Matthew 26, the first verse. When Jesus finished all these words, he said to his disciples, "You know that after 2 days the Passover is coming, and the Son of Man is to be handed over for crucifixion." So what a start. I needed context. And we've come off the back, right? When he finished all these words. So he'd finished in 25 teaching his disciples. And now we're going into narrative. We're going into a narrative. It shifts the focus from his teaching of his disciples, into his betrayal, his arrest, and his crucifixion. So I like maps. Maybe I've spent a bit too much time with Dennis. But I just wanted to know if you're ever interested, like where is Bethany and where's the Garden of Gethsemane and where's the temple? So I kind of pulled that map up. So Jesus, at the time of this writing, was in Bethany already, which is there. And the shadow of the cross is already falling across the room. He said that Passover is in 2 days. He was going to be handed over and crucified. He knows this, and he's still walking towards it with his eyes and heart wide open. Caiaphas and his gang are busy plotting and conniving away, right? But what makes me wonder is, has this really sunk in for the disciples yet or not? What do you reckon? Do you think it's sunk in, or they're still like bumbling along? Would we truly know? I have no idea. So let's continue with verses 6 to 13. Now when Jesus was in Bethany at the home of Simon the leper, a woman came to him with an alabaster vial of very expensive perfume, and she poured it on his head as he was reclining at the table. But the disciples were indignant when they saw this and said, "Why this waste? For this perfume could have been sold for a high price and the money given to the poor." But Jesus, aware of this, said to them, "Why are you bothering this woman? For she has done a good deed for me. For you always have the poor with you, but you do not always have me. For when she poured this perfume on my body, she did it to prepare me for burial. Truly I say to you, wherever this gospel is preached in the whole world, what this woman has done will also be told in memory of her." So Jesus is hanging out in Simon's house, and when we look at this story, it's repeated in all 4 Gospels. There's similar stories. Luke's a bit of an outlier because it's set up north rather than in Bethany. Matthew and Mark document that it was the anointing of Jesus' head, whereas Luke and John, it's his feet. John names her Mary, the other 3 don't. And so regardless of all of this, Jesus said that wherever this gospel is preached in the whole world, including here this morning in South Bristol, what the woman did will be told in her memory. So I just wanted to kind of delve a little bit. I actually went down too many rabbit holes with this, about the oil and the alabaster jar. So this is expensive oil, right? It said it's cost a year's salary. I even looked up how much it would be. How much oil would someone have to like anoint a whole body for funeral? But anyway, I'm not going down that road. She pours the oil on Jesus' head. So maybe aside from anointing him or preparing him for burial, maybe she was also anointing him as king as well at the same time, right? The disciples were appalled, saying it's such a waste. Can you imagine? Like, I'm Chinese. If you ever meet a Chinese person and you talk money, it's about money, right? Everything with Chinese people is about money. Even casinos, 888 is a Chinese thing. So I'd be thinking, like, what a waste. In Matthew 25, Jesus was teaching them about helping the hungry, the thirsty, inviting strangers in, clothing those who need it, looking after the sick, visiting people in prison. And then here's this woman who's wasting or pouring away a year's worth of salary, gone in seconds. And not only was the oil really expensive, the jar was also expensive. I actually sent a WhatsApp to my mum this morning. this morning and go, do you still have that alabaster jar? Because she's actually got one. She's had one as long as I've been a child. Alabaster is a stone commonly found in Israel, if you didn't know that. And it's one of the precious stones used in the decoration of Solomon's temple. It's highly prized for its beauty and its durability, and is often used to create small, sealed containers for perfumes and ointments, which were luxury items in biblical times. An ancient alabaster flask often had a long, narrow neck that was completely sealed with wax or clay to preserve the oil, and the jar had to be broken or shattered at the neck to release the perfume inside. Jesus calls this act a good deed, and in some translations it said it's beautiful. And that act will be remembered forever, her breaking the jar and pouring the oil out. So what can we learn from her? The first point I've got up there is give 100%. Give it all. The perfume was worth a full year's wages. The jar was broken, as I said, symbolizing complete offering of something that is hugely valuable. It's a hugely valuable possession to be able to just pour it out. Once open, there's a point of no return because you can't stuff the oil back in. The oil will lose its fragrance. How are we with God? Are we holding back? Are we giving 100% of our heart, our life? You know, I was talking to Kim about this before, and becoming a Christian 3 years ago, and I still think about it now. I didn't bring tissues, but if you haven't been brought up in a Christian family, then making that decision, like my dad passed 3 years ago. He died in the April, and I got baptized in October. And I'm like, you know, I see people post on social media, you know, see my dad's passed. I look forward to seeing him in our next life. And I think, I don't know if I'll see him again because he's not a Christian, right? And what about my mum now? She's 91. It's her birthday today, right? And she's not a Christian. What happens there? What happens there? Yeah. So, you know, for me, it's a challenge, right? It's kind of thinking, what am I? Am I giving up my family? My brother's a Buddhist as well. My sister-in-law's Buddhist, and that's it. That's the end of the family, right? I've got a nephew, he's Buddhist as well. You know, so what happens? What happens there? So the unbroken jar, in this instance, when the oil is contained inside it, we can't actually smell the oil. We can't smell its beauty. It has to be broken in order for the fragrance to escape, right? The beauty and fragrance of the oil is only useful once the shell is destroyed. So could it be on two levels? One is, do we need to kind of break through our shell in order to pour out our love for him and our devotion for him? Okay? But also, as the jar is broken and the fragrance fills the room, Jesus' body had to be broken too, for his grace, for his salvation, and for his love to pour out on humanity. Her heart is utterly devoted. She poured out what was most precious to her because Jesus is her treasure. Her actions reveal what was already in her heart, and she doesn't calculate how much is this going to cost. She doesn't hold back. She doesn't protect herself from what people will think about her. She pours everything out. So where is your heart? What is in your alabaster jar? What's in your alabaster jar? Okay. I wrote down some questions. They were mainly for me, so I'll just share them with you. What am I holding on to that God may be asking me to release to him? What do I need to let go of and fully surrender to Jesus? What's actually in my alabaster jar? This must have been so important to Jesus, right? Because he said that whatever she did will be told forever, wherever the gospel is preached. So what each of us considers precious can vary widely, right? It can include your spouse, it can include your children, my parents, my dad, your career, friendships, memories, healthy routines, habits. All these things, require surrendered trust and faith, letting go of our children as they grow old, make mistakes and mature, trusting God with our marriage, our careers, faithfully stewarding our time, our treasure, and our talent are all easier said than done. So are there things in your life that you're holding on to, maybe subconsciously that you're holding back, keeping you up at night, causing you anxiety, causing you fear, causing you anger? What barriers are you putting up? What barriers are we putting up? Yeah. And, that we need to allow Jesus to break down and tear down. Things that you wouldn't consider precious but are taking up huge amounts of space in your life. Where are we spending our time? Do we harbor resentment towards someone we love? Is there unresolved conflict with someone in our life? Who do you need to ask Jesus for help with forgiving? So the woman certainly didn't think twice about the cost of the fragrant perfume in her alabaster flask. She willingly shattered the jar and emptied its valuable contents at Jesus' feet. As fellow sinners, what's holding us back from doing the same? So if I'm totally honest, I'm not sure I embody. So is it Galatians where you've got the fruits of the Spirit? Love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. I don't know if I embody all of them. Certainly not all the time. At this moment in my life, I feel like my alabaster jar is probably filled with resentment, anxiety, and fear. And at the root of it is probably because I'm not good enough, right? Should I be doing this, etc. And I'm holding on to that rather than actually letting it go, because it's not mine to hold, and to step in to who I am, which is a child of God, right? I'm a beloved and treasured child of God. So what am I doing about it? Choosing daily to commune and talk with Jesus, not just ticking a box, not just reading the verse because it's meant to, and to actually spend time with him. I remember one of my early conversations with Debs, and she's saying that when she sits in the bus or anything, she always keeps a seat next to her for Jesus. And I'm thinking, yeah, I can do that too. All right, so most times I'm terrible at it. When you've had a terrible night's sleep because it's been so hot this week, right? It's been so hot this week. The last thing I probably want to do is just get out my Bible to actually read it. So I'm terrible at it. But because Jesus is who he is, because he loves us, he continually, gently nudges me and pursues me to say, keep choosing me. And it's a choice. Okay, so bring your jar to him. Let's now move on to looking at the flip side, which is Judas. Okay, Judas was an insider. He'd heard every sermon, saw every miracle, watched Lazarus walk up the tomb, shared meals with Jesus, traveled and hung out with him hours on end, and he's soon to dip his bread in the same bowl as Jesus. So let's read verses 14 to 16. I'm taking it in bits here. Then one of the 12, named Judas Iscariot, went to the chief priests and said, "What are you willing to give me to betray him to you?" They set out for him 30 pieces of silver. And from then on, he looked for a good opportunity to betray Jesus. Now, when evening came, Jesus was reclining at the table with the 12, and as they were eating, he said, "Truly I say to you that one of you will betray me." So the complete opposite of the woman. She asks for nothing and gives everything. Judas is asking, "What will you give me?" She pours out what is precious. He sells what is priceless for 30 pieces of silver. In Mosaic law, I found this out, right? It's gone down another rabbit hole. A master must be paid 30 pieces of silver if a slave was killed by an ox. I don't know how many times that happens. but, but we have no idea what those 30 pieces of silver were worth during this time. But from what I've read, it can be as low as 5 days' wages. That's what he sold Jesus for. Okay? So he spent all this time with him, hanging. How many of you would love to spend time with Jesus and just hang out with him 24/7, right? And you have this wonderful opportunity. He's as close as anyone can get, and yet he didn't treasure him. He didn't treasure him. Proximity isn't intimacy. Proximity isn't intimacy. I mentioned earlier that the heart is easily deceived. I don't know. I don't think Judas woke up that morning as a traitor. You know, it's not like the TV show Traitor. You just apply and become one. You know, I don't think he woke up that morning, because our hearts follow treasures slowly, quietly. And somewhere along the way, Judas' treasure became something other than Jesus. It could be the money. It could be the recognition. It could be prestige to be part of the gang. Could be the disappointment that Jesus wasn't what he expected. He wasn't turning out to be the Messiah that he'd envisaged all his life. Whatever it was, it sat closer to his heart than the Son of God sitting right next to him. So let's carry on with verses 20 to 22. Now when evening came, Jesus was reclining at the table with the 12, and as they were eating, he said, "Truly I say to you that one of you will betray me." Being deeply grieved, they began saying to him, each one, "Surely it is not I, Lord." Can you imagine Jesus saying that to you? One of you will betray me. How would you have felt, and how would it feel if we heard that today? So Matthew said they were deeply grieved, and one by one they asked, "Surely it's not me, me?" What they did not do was look around for the guilty one. They didn't look around and go, "Is it you? Is it you?" They all looked at themselves. Each of them looked inward. And maybe that's the most honest question any of us can ask in this chapter. Me? Would we have been so sure it wasn't us? So how deeply do we know Jesus? We're here this Sunday morning. We're here most Sunday mornings. We love the worship. We love the music. We love the buzz and the warm hum that we feel for the rest of the day. I love coming to church on Sunday because it's a real pick-me-up. You know, I feel really good afterwards. We love the sense of belonging. We're part of the church family. We love being known by others, being, the welcome team. They know your name, hopefully. Uh, we're an insider. We're an insider. Some of us may love the role that we play here in church, being part of a team. We can be an insider and still not know Jesus. Judas loved being on the inside. Matt mentioned last week that how someone got close to him because he was the pastor. They were drawn to his position rather than him as a person. We can be near the things of God for years and never have our hearts set on God himself. Being around church, being around spiritual things isn't the same as being transformed. Jesus was close enough to kiss Jesus, yet he was far from his heart. So we're moving on to progress through this long chapter. 26 to 28, again, bits from here. Now while they were eating, Jesus took some bread, and after a blessing, he broke it and gave it to the disciples and said, "Take, eat, this is my body." And when he had taken a cup and given thanks, he gave it to them, saying, "Drink from it, all of you, for this is my blood of the covenant, which is being poured out for many for the forgiveness of sins." So here we have a table full of hearts that are about to fail him, and Jesus reveals his own heart. So we had the outpouring of the alabaster jar. This is the second outpouring. She poured oil on him, and now he's telling us that he pours out his blood for the world. Her love said, "You are worth everything." His love says, "You are worth my life." We are given new hearts by the outpouring of his blood. He stood in our place, taking what we deserve, so that our hearts of stone can be made new. He loves us so much. He loved them so much. And he makes this covenant with the very people who are about to fail him that night. Betrayal, denial. He knows what we're like, and yet he continues to love us. His heart is for us. He doesn't wait to see if we deserve it or not, because I don't think we ever will deserve it. So are we simply just around Jesus? How deeply do we really know him, and are we becoming like him? We now move into the Garden of Gethsemane in verses 36 to 40, taken bits again here. Then Jesus came to them to a place called Gethsemane and told his disciples, "Sit here while I go over there and pray." And he took Peter and the two sons of Zebedee with him and began to be grieved. He took Peter and two sons of Zebedee with him and began to be grieved and distressed. Then he said to them, "My soul is deeply grieved to the point of death. Remain here and keep watch with me." And he went a little beyond them and fell on his face and prayed, saying, "My Father, if it is possible, let this cup pass from me. Yet not as I will, but as you will." And he came to the disciples and found them sleeping. We'll jump to the next one. This is a little conversation. He went away again the second time and prayed, saying, "My Father, if this cup cannot pass away unless I drink from it, your will be done." And we jump forward a few verses. "Behold, the hour is at hand, and the Son of Man is being betrayed into the hands of sinners. Get up, let's go. Behold, the one who is betraying me is near." So this Garden of Gethsemane is where we see the heart of Jesus laid bare, right? "My soul is deeply grieved to the point of death." This is real grief, and he's really feeling this. He suffers, he experiences anguish, he knows his time is near, and he's wondering, do the disciples still get it or not? Do they really get it? He's kind of, at that stage. The thought of leaving his closest companions, kind of knowing that they still haven't got a clue probably, right? And, but for me, like this bit, it breaks my heart. I can't watch a cartoon of a cartoon cat suffering without like crying, because I just feel it, let alone this. And I was talking to Kim when we watched The Chosen last year, at the start of last year, and Jesus, if you haven't seen it, Jesus is in the garden, and he's obviously going through this scene. And Kim did not get it. Kim did not get it. My husband did not get it. And I asked him this morning, I said, why didn't you get it? And he says, oh, what did you say? He's Superman. He thought he was Superman and he was unbreakable. That's what he thought at the time. Like sometimes we hear about all the miracles and everything that he does, but he's so fully human as well. He's so fully human and he knows what we're going through, right? So Jesus shows us that being faithful means to experience the completeness of humanity, to feel everything and still obey. He prays about the cup, which is God's wrath against sin. He's looking straight at it and knows the judgment that should fall on us is about to fall on him. And yet, his heart chooses God's will. A heart that's completely given over to the Father, even when it costs him everything. Your will be done. So modern culture says, follow your heart. Jesus teaches us to surrender our hearts. The Christian life isn't about self-expression, it's about surrender. The greatest freedom isn't doing whatever we want. The greatest freedom is wanting what God wants. And with all this going on, the disciples sleep. Not once, but 3 times. He asked for company, they didn't give it. Yep, he asked them to pray, and they doze off. But he knows that the flesh is weak. They love him, they mean well, but they still fail. He's surrounded by his closest friends, and they slept. Again and again and again. And yet he is patient, he is gentle, he is steadfast. How many times has Jesus come looking for us? How many times has he found us distracted? How many times has he found us spiritually asleep, drifting? And yet he keeps calling us back. So here's the heart of Jesus in the garden, right? It's a heart that grieves. It's a heart that bears what was ours. It's a heart that is patient. And above all, it is a heart that says yes to the Father out of love for us. All right, so I'm going to just jump. You've read this chapter, right, all of you? So towards the end, Peter's outside in the courtyard, okay? And he's confronted and he denies, okay? He denies that he ever knew Jesus. I don't know the man. I don't know him. And then the rooster crows, and Peter remembered the statement that Jesus has made, before the rooster crows, you will deny me 3 times. He went out and wept bitterly. This is heartbreaking because Peter isn't a cynic. He's not a secret enemy. He's a disciple that genuinely loves Jesus. His heart's in the right place, but he trusts himself too much. He's relying on his own strength. So have we ever been Peter? Have we ever been Peter in terms of relying on our own strength? Yeah. Jesus knew that Peter would fail him, but he went anyway. Peter's story, if you read on, Peter's story doesn't end there. Jesus will bring him back. A heart of stone can be made new, even a heart that has denied him 3 times. The failure is real, but it's never the final word when we are not writing the story. So worship team, would you like to come up? And I'm not going to say as we land, I say as I draw to a close. Everyone in Matthew 26 reveals what they treasure. The woman treasures Jesus. Judas treasures silver. The priest treasures power. The disciples treasured comfort. More importantly, this chapter is about the heart of Jesus. He treasures us. He feels real sorrow and compassion, and he chooses the cross. So where is our heart, and what do our lives reveal? Because whatever you treasure, your heart is already quietly following it. Your calendar reveals treasure. Our spending reveals treasure. Our thoughts, our conversations, our attention reveals treasure. Jesus made a covenant with a people that he knew would fail him, and he still doesn't flinch. He poured himself out for us, for the world. He gives everything because we are loved. So just for a moment, if you would indulge me, I'm going to invite you to just be still for a moment and close your eyes. I'm going to speak about the 3 different hearts in this room, because all 3 are here this morning. Some of you have been close to Jesus for a long time, close to worship, the routines, close like Judas was close. But if we're honest, our heart has not been set on the experience. Our heart has been set on the experience and not on him. Hear this gently. Today, you can stop loving the things around Jesus and start treasuring Jesus himself. Some of you have been Peter. You love him. You really do. But you've been leaning on yourself. And lately, you've gone quiet, shrunk back, and denied him in the small places. You're carrying the weight of it all. Jesus knew you before you did. He went to the cross anyway. So come home. And finally, some of you simply want to do what the woman did, pour everything out. So bring that to your worship. Don't bring your calculations. Bring him your trust, not your self-confidence. Bring him your failure, because his heart is faithful enough to carry it. The prayer ministry team will come up. So if you like prayer, come to the front or raise a hand and someone will come to you. And if there's one prayer I'd love for us to pray this morning, it is help us set our hearts on Jesus. We don't hold on because our grip is strong. We hold on because his is. The heart of Jesus poured out for you. Where your treasure is, there your heart will be also.